One of the most common statements we hear today is, "It's just music." But is it really? When you say it's just music, are you fully aware of the power and influence that music holds over our lives? Music is not merely a collection of sounds, it's a medium that transcends language, culture, and time. It can evoke powerful emotions, bring people together, and even alter our state of mind. As Christians, we worship God through music. It's a powerful form of expression and connection to our Heavenly Father. But what happens when that same powerful medium is used for purposes contrary to godliness? Music is not a neutral force. It carries with it spiritual, emotional, and psychological impacts. In the world of the occult and rituals, music and chants are integral parts of ceremonies. These chants are not random. They are carefully designed to invoke spirits, alter states of consciousness, and connect participants to the spirit world. So I ask you again, is it really just music? This is one of the biggest lies you'll hear. It's not just music. The power of music. Music affects us on multiple levels, emotionally, physiologically, cognitively, and even spiritually. Scientific research has shown that music can influence our emotions, alter our moods, and even change the way we think. For instance, upbeat music can lift our spirits and energize us, while somber melodies can bring about feelings of sadness or introspection. In 1 Samuel 16, verse 23, we read, "And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him." Here, we see a powerful example of how music affected the very spirit of a man struggling with an evil presence. The soothing, godly music played by David didn't just affect Saul's mood. It drove away an evil spirit. If godly music has the power to refresh and cleanse the spirit, then we must recognize that ungodly music has the potential to do the opposite. Brothers and sisters, it has never been just music. From a biblical standpoint, we understand that music has the power to affect the spiritual atmosphere. It can bring deliverance, healing, and peace, as in the case of David and Saul, or it can invite darkness, confusion, and spiritual oppression. The enemy understands this better than anyone, and he exploits this power to influence people in ways that are contrary to God's will. Think about it, brothers and sisters. Why does the world have its chants and its music? This isn't by accident. There is a power in music that goes beyond what we as human beings can fully grasp or understand. This is why we must be vigilant and discerning about the music we allow into our lives. The satanic influence in modern music. When we look at modern music, it's not hard to see why many songs and music videos seem to have a connection with the devil. From the overt use of satanic imagery in music videos to the lyrics that glorify rebellion, immorality, and darkness, it's clear that there is a spiritual battle being waged through the airwaves. Musicians now are no longer hiding it. Musicians now are no longer hiding their affinity to the devil and their allegiance to the devil. Celebrities openly depict satanic symbols in their performances, and there is a growing trend of glorifying dark and demonic imagery. Why is this? Why do artists choose to sing about the devil or include satanic imagery in their work? It's not natural for someone to desire to associate with evil unless there's a greater force at work. The prevalence of these images in music is not a coincidence. Consider the countless music videos and live performances that feature explicit occult symbolism such as pentagrams, all-seeing eyes, and horned deities. These symbols are not mere artistic expressions. They are deliberate nods to the spiritual forces that inspire them. For instance, some artists have been seen performing rituals on stage, donning costumes that resemble demonic entities, or even depicting themselves as fallen angels. The shock value is often justified as pushing artistic boundaries, but beneath the surface, there's a deeper, more sinister agenda at play. Artists like Lil Nas X with his Montero Call Me By Your Name video openly embraces satanic imagery, including scenes where he descends into hell and gives a lap dance to a figure resembling Satan. This isn't just shocking for shock's sake. It's an overt celebration of rebellion against God and an embrace of darkness. Similarly, other artists such as Sam Smith and Demi Lovato have performed at award shows in costumes that are blatantly satanic, complete with red lights, fire, and imagery of bondage and sin. These performances are not isolated incidents. they reflect a broader cultural shift where darkness is being normalized and even celebrated. A broader cultural shift where Satan is being normalized and even celebrated. We are witnessing a rise in the overt display of demonic elements in music videos and culture. This isn't just art or creativity, it's a spiritual warfare playing out in our society. The enemy knows the power of music and uses it as a tool to infiltrate our minds, influence our behaviors, and desensitize us to sin. The lyrics of many popular songs also reflect this satanic influence. Themes of rebellion, self-glorification, and indulgence are rampant. Consider the lyrics that promote drug use, promiscuity, and even blasphemy against God. These messages are not harmless. They are seeds planted in the minds of listeners, often without them realizing it. As these messages are internalized, they begin to shape the listener's worldview, desensitizing them to sin and leading them further away from God. As Christians, we are called to be set apart from the world, and that includes the music we listen to. The Bible warns us in Ephesians 5, verse 11, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. We cannot afford to be passive consumers of music that glorifies evil, because doing so opens the door for those same influences to take root in our lives. The impact of music on morality and behavior. Research supports the idea that music isn't just a harmless pastime. It has real, tangible effects on our behavior and beliefs. Scientific research supports this claim. A study by Primack et al., conducted in 2008, examined how exposure to degrading sexual lyrics in popular music influences sexual attitudes and behaviors among adults. The study found that adults who frequently listen to music with degrading sexual content reported more permissive attitudes toward casual sex and were more likely to engage in promiscuous behaviors. This is critical to understand because it highlights how what we listen to shapes our views on morality. People wonder why they struggle with lust or can't maintain purity, yet they spend day and night listening to songs that glorify fleshly desires, songs that encourage lust. Take, for example, the song Promiscuous Girl by Nelly Furtado, which was a massive hit in the mid-2000s. The lyrics glamorize promiscuity and portray it as a casual, fun, and consequence-free lifestyle. When songs like this dominate the world, it's no surprise that listeners begin to internalize these messages. The constant exposure to such content normalizes behaviors that are contrary to God's design for us. Moreover, consider the overwhelming number of songs that glamorize promiscuity, infidelity, and other sinful behaviors. Artists often sing about living recklessly, pursuing their desires at any cost, and disregarding any sense of moral responsibility. These messages can be incredibly alluring, especially to young, impressionable minds. When listeners are constantly fed these narratives, they start to view them as normal or even desirable, which can lead to destructive behaviors and a gradual erosion of godly values. Another area where music's influence is evident is in the promotion of violence. A study by Anderson, Carnegie, and Eubanks, 2003, found that exposure to violent lyrics increased aggressive thoughts and feelings in listeners. This suggests a link between aggressive music content and heightened aggression in real life. This is particularly concerning given the prevalence of violent themes in many popular music genres today, including rap, heavy metal, and some subgenres of rock. This indicates that while not everyone is affected in the same way, the potential for negative influence is significant. So why do we see such high rates of violence among young people today? Why are fights, shootings, and other forms of aggression so prevalent? Part of the answer lies in what they're consuming day in and day out. If all they listen to are songs that glorify violence, lawlessness, and rebellion, it should come as no surprise when these attitudes manifest in their lives. Music isn't just entertainment. It's a powerful tool that shapes thoughts, behaviors, and ultimately, the condition of one's heart. When youth are constantly exposed to music that celebrates aggression and defiance, it feeds a spirit of rebellion that can be hard to control. We must not underestimate the power of repeated exposure. Just as a steady diet of godly music can build faith and foster a peaceful spirit, a steady diet of ungodly music can corrupt the heart and fuel ungodly behaviors. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4, verse 23, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." If we fill our hearts with messages of hate, violence, and rebellion, we should not be surprised when those same things begin to flow out of our lives. As Christians, we cannot afford to be naive about the power of music. We live in a world where the lines between good and evil are increasingly blurred, and music is one of the arenas where this battle is most visible. Music is not just sound, it's a medium through which messages are conveyed, spirits are invited, and hearts are influenced. When we consume music that is filled with darkness, we open ourselves up to spiritual influences that are not from God. The enemy knows this, and he uses music as a tool to lead people away from God and into a lifestyle of sin. Think about the music you listen to. Are the lyrics glorifying God or glorifying the things of this world? Are the artists promoting messages of love, peace, and righteousness? Or are they promoting lust, violence, and rebellion? We must be discerning about what we allow into our minds and hearts through music. It's not just about personal preference, it's about guarding your spirit against influences that can lead you away from God. Consider the impact of worship music. When we sing praises to God, our spirits are lifted, we feel closer to Him, and we are reminded of His goodness and faithfulness. Worship music helps us to focus on the truth of God's Word, to meditate on His promises, and to connect with His presence. If music can have such a profound positive impact, then the reverse is also true. Music that glorifies sin and darkness can pull us away from God, cloud our judgment, and invite spiritual oppression. Practical steps for Christians. Be selective. Choose music that uplifts, inspires, and glorifies God. There is a wealth of Christian music that can feed your spirit and draw you closer to the Lord. Don't settle for music that contradicts your values just because it's popular or catchy. Be discerning. Pay attention to the lyrics and the overall message of the songs you listen to. Ask yourself, does this align with my faith? Does this glorify God? If the answer is no, it's time to change your playlist. Remember, not all music that is labeled Christian truly glorifies God, so always use discernment. Set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries around what you will and won't listen to. Protect your spirit by avoiding music that promotes sin or glorifies the enemy. This might mean stepping away from certain genres, artists, or even mainstream radio altogether. It's a small sacrifice to make for the sake of your spiritual health. It's not just music. Music has real, tangible effects on our emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and spirits. It's a powerful tool that can be used for good or for evil. The next time someone tells you, it's just music, remember the truth. It's never just music. Music is a spiritual force that can draw you closer to God or lead you away from Him. As followers of Christ, we must be vigilant about what we allow into our lives, including the music we listen to. Let's choose music that honors God, uplifts our spirits, and aligns with the values of the kingdom. Let's remember that every song is a choice, and every choice shapes our spiritual journey. Choose wisely, and let your music be a reflection of your faith. Let your songs be your testimony, and let your playlists be a light in a world filled with darkness. It's not just music, it's a matter of spiritual life and death. Guard your heart, tune your ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, and let your life be a song of worship unto the Lord. Should Christians listen to secular music? This is a question that many believers wrestle with. Secular musicians often possess immense talent, and their music can be highly entertaining. However, we also witness a trend where secular music is becoming increasingly more anti-Christ. Take, for instance, Eminem's new album, The Death of Slim Shady, Coup de Grace. This album has been performing exceptionally well both critically and commercially. Released on July 12, 2024, the album marks Eminem's 12th studio project and presents a conceptual narrative centered around the internal conflict between Eminem and his alter ego, Slim Shady. The album set a record on Spotify, becoming the most streamed album in a single day for 2024 with 63 million streams, surpassing previous records held by other artists according to Sinusoidal Music. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, dethroning Taylor Swift's album after a 12-week reign, as noted by Sinusoidal Music. However, the content of some of the songs raises significant concerns. Allow me to read some of the song titles on the album. The 5th song on the album is titled Evil, the 7th song is called Lucifer, and the 8th song is titled Antichrist. In the 8th song, Antichrist, the chorus goes as follows. Marshall, he's the Antichrist. He will slice and dice men, women, and children. One more time. Come on. His name is Marshall. He's the Antichrist. Here, Eminem hyperbolically states that he is the Antichrist. While no one actually thinks he is the Antichrist, One has to wonder why an artist would create a song centered around such a theme. There is a clear shift in modern music becoming more antichrist. The impact of secular music is not limited to one genre. For instance, the hip-hop and rap genre often contain explicit lyrics that glorify violence, substance abuse, and immoral behavior. Some of the music literally glorifies living a legal lifestyle. While some argue that it is just music, the messages conveyed can have a significant impact on listeners, particularly young and impressionable minds. The Bible instructs us in Philippians 4, verse 8, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." This verse challenges Christians to consider whether the music they listen to aligns with these virtues. I remember a story about a young man who used to be a gangster. In his testimony, he spoke of the power of music. Whenever he was about to commit a robbery or a drive-by shooting, he would be absolutely terrified. He didn't want to commit the crime, fearing getting caught or hurting someone. However, as soon as he put his headphones on and started playing heavy rock music, his fear disappeared. He no longer cared about the consequences or the harm he might cause. It was as if a demonic courage came upon him. Many of us have experienced something similar, though not identical. There were certain songs I used to listen to while lifting weights at the gym. Something about those songs enabled me to push harder and lift heavier weights. Music has power. Now, consider what happens when you listen to songs that talk about sex, lust, fornication, and adultery. Do you think such songs draw you closer to the Lord or closer to the lusts of the flesh? You might wonder why you struggle with a particular sin, but if you spend all day and night listening to songs that encourage that very sin, it's no surprise. Many people listen to songs without caring about the lyrics. They know every word, but have never stopped to consider what the lyrics are conveying. Sadly, some mainstream songs actively worship the devil, and churchgoers sing these secular songs because they are catchy and have a nice beat. I've read articles where former occult members state that some music videos represent occult ceremonies. This doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you? I want to encourage you to be selective about what you listen to and what you play in your home. Understand that the devil will do all he can to enter a person's life. More and more, I see so-called Christian artists whose music is no different from secular music. As the body of Christ, we are called out of the world, not to be like the world. Just because a song mentions God 3 times doesn't mean it's a Christian song or that the artist is a Christian. Be discerning with the music you listen to, even if it is labeled as Christian. Ask yourself if the music is exalting a man or Jesus. Music, a powerful gift from God, designed to uplift, inspire, and bring us closer to Him, has been twisted and corrupted. It has become a tool for spreading messages that are not only secular, but increasingly evil and antichrist. This is a sobering subject that requires our attention and action because musicians and their music profoundly shape the culture of our world. There is an invisible hand at work, moving nations, influencing Hollywood, and dictating the trajectory of the music industry. This hand belongs to none other than the devil himself, who is no longer hiding his presence in music. We are witnessing a deliberate and calculated effort to corrupt and lead astray, and the evidence is all around us. This invisible hand operates subtly, often masking its true intentions under the guise of entertainment and artistic expression. It uses the allure of fame, fortune, and power to seduce artists, leading them to propagate messages that align with its dark agenda. The devil knows the profound impact that music has on the human soul. It can uplift and inspire, or it can corrupt and destroy. By infiltrating the music industry, he seeks to exploit this power for his own sinister purposes. One way this influence manifests is through the normalization of sin. Songs that glorify promiscuity, drug use, violence, and rebellion against authority are prevalent. They portray these behaviors as desirable, fun, and without consequence. This normalization desensitizes listeners, especially the young and impressionable, to the gravity of sin. What was once shocking and unacceptable has become commonplace and even celebrated. Moreover, the devil's influence is evident in the increasing presence of occult symbolism and themes in music videos and performances. Pentagrams, all-seeing eyes, and other symbols associated with satanic worship are becoming more frequent. These are not mere coincidences or artistic choices. They are deliberate efforts to introduce and normalize dark spiritual elements. The performers, often unaware of the full implications, become unwitting pawns in this larger spiritual battle. The lyrics themselves often contain blasphemous and rebellious themes, subtly or overtly encouraging listeners to question or outright reject God. This can be seen in songs that promote self-idolatry, where the individual is exalted above all else, directly contradicting the biblical principle of humility and submission to God's will. The invisible hand's goal is to shift the focus away from God and place it on the self, creating a culture of narcissism and spiritual apathy. Music has changed dramatically over the years, and it is progressively getting worse. What once were songs of love and genuine affection have now become songs of lust and immoral desires. The lyrics and messages in many of today's popular songs glorify behaviors that are contrary to God's teachings. These so-called love songs are often nothing more than lust-driven anthems that celebrate sin and fleshly desires. We must remember that music holds great power. It has the ability to influence our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. In 1 Samuel 16, verse 23, we see how David's music had the power to soothe King Saul's troubled spirit. Similarly, today's music has the power to either draw us closer to God or pull us away from Him. Unfortunately, much of modern secular music is doing the latter, promoting a lifestyle that is far removed from the righteousness God calls us to. Take a look at the trajectory of the world and Hollywood. It is clear that the music industry is becoming more explicit and blasphemous. Artists are now openly mocking God, promoting drug use, sexual immorality, and violence. Songs that top the charts are filled with profanity and messages that desensitize us to sin. This is not just harmless entertainment. It is spiritual poison being fed to our souls. The Bible warns us about the times we are living in. In 2 Timothy 3, verse 1-5, it says, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people." Musicians hold a significant role in shaping culture. They are idolized, their words are memorized, and their lifestyles are emulated. When these influential figures use their platforms to promote darkness, it has a ripple effect on society. Young minds, in particular, are highly impressionable and are being led astray by the messages they consume through music. It is almost as if the devil is no longer hiding himself in music. We see symbols and imagery associated with the occult and satanic practices openly displayed in music videos and concerts. The lyrics often contain subtle and sometimes not so subtle references to rebellion against God. This is not a coincidence. It is a deliberate effort to promote an anti-Christ agenda. Lyrics play a crucial role in shaping our thoughts and beliefs. When we listen to songs repeatedly, their messages can become ingrained in our minds. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4, verse 23, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." We must guard our hearts against the corrupting influence of ungodly music. Lyrics that glorify sinful behavior, degrade human dignity, and blaspheme God's name are harmful to our spiritual well-being. The devil is cunning and often disguises evil as something appealing and harmless. In 2 Corinthians 11, verse 14, we read, "And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light." Modern secular music can be enticing with its catchy tunes and rhythms, but we must look beyond the surface and discern the underlying messages. What appears harmless can lead us away from the path of righteousness.